In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars whispered secrets to one another and galaxies swirled like forgotten dreams, I, Kai, a simple Earthling mechanic from a backwater colony on Mars, found myself thrust into a nightmare that would redefine everything I knew about strength, love, and the universe itself. It all started on a routine cargo run, nothing fancy, just hauling scrap metal and outdated tech from Earth to the Outer Rim trading posts. My ship, the Rusty Nomad, was a clunky old beast, pieced together from salvaged parts, but she got the job done. Or at least she did until that fateful warp jump. The alarms blared like a symphony of chaos as my vessel shuddered violently, spitting sparks from the console. Warning, anomalous gravity well detected. The AI droned in its monotonous voice. I gripped the controls, sweat beading on my forehead, cursing under my breath. What the hell was this? A black hole? Pirates? No, it was worse, far worse. The Nomad lurched, and suddenly I was spat out into unknown space, my engines fried and navigation offline. Stars I didn't recognize dotted the void, and in the distance, a shimmering planet loomed, its surface a mosaic of glowing blues and purples, like a jewel forged in the heart of a nebula. As I emergency landed on what felt like solid ground, though the air hummed with an unnatural energy, I stepped out, my boots crunching on crystalline soil. The atmosphere was breathable, thank the stars, but everything else screamed alien. Towering spires of iridescent rock pierced the sky, and bioluminescent flora pulsed like living veins. I was no explorer, I was just a guy who fixed engines for a living. But survival kicked in. I grabbed my toolkit and scanner, hoping to jury-rig the ship back to life. That's when she appeared. Out of the shadows of a nearby forest, trees that looked like twisted glass sculptures, strode a figure that made my heart skip. She was tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered like polished amethyst under the dual suns. Her hair cascaded in waves of electric blue-green, crackling faintly with static energy, as if lightning danced through each strand. Pointed ears, elegant and elf-like, twitched at the slightest sound, and her eyes, oh, those eyes, were a piercing violet, glowing with an inner fire. She wore a form-fitting suit that hugged her curves like a second skin, made of some metallic fabric that shifted colors with her movements, revealing just enough to stir the imagination without giving everything away. It was provocative, almost teasing, clinging to her athletic yet voluptuous frame in ways that made my mind wander despite the danger. She halted a few paces away, her lips curling into a smirk that was equal parts disdain and curiosity. "What have we here?" Her voice echoed, melodic yet laced with mockery, translated seamlessly by my suit's universal comms implant. "A puny earthling, how quaint. You stumble into Zovara like a lost insect, crashing your primitive tin can. Do you even comprehend the gravity of your trespass?" I blinked, trying to process. Zovara. I'd heard whispers of it in spacer bars, a legendary world in the Nethurian sector, home to an advanced alien race known for their technological prowess and isolationist ways. And this woman, alien, clearly was one of them. "Look, lady," I said, raising my hands in a gesture of peace, "I'm not here to cause trouble. My ship malfunctioned. If you could point me to a repair bay or something." She laughed, a sound like tinkling crystals, but it carried an edge sharp enough to cut. "Repair bay? For that relic? Oh, Earthling, you amuse me. We Zovarans have transcended such crude mechanics centuries ago. Our vessels dance through wormholes on thoughts alone. Yours, it's barely fit for scrap." She circled me slowly, her hips swaying with an effortless allure that made it hard to focus. Up close, her scent hit me, something exotic, like ozone mixed with blooming night flowers, intoxicating and disorienting. "And you, so fragile so. Human, I've studied your kind in our archives. Weak bodies, short lifespans, driven by base instincts. Puny indeed." Her words stung, but I wasn't about to back down. I'd fixed worse messes than this on derelict stations where one wrong wire could mean explosive decompression. Puny or not, I've survived worse than a sassy alien tour guide. "Name's Kai, and you are?" "Lyra," she replied, her violet eyes narrowing. "Princess Lyra of Zovara, heir to the crystal throne. And you, Kai, are an intruder. Our planetary shields should have vaporized you, yet here you stand, intriguing, or perhaps just lucky." Before I could retort, a low rumble shook the ground. The sky darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling into a vortex. Lyra's smug expression faltered for the first time, her pointed ears flattening slightly. "The collapse," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "It's accelerating." "What's that?" I asked, scanning the horizon where cracks of energy spiderwebbed across the land, like the planet itself was fracturing. She turned to me, her mocking tone replaced by urgency. "Our world is dying, Earthling. The core's instability, a cataclysm we've fought for generations. Our scientists predicted stability for another cycle, but something's wrong. Alarms wailed from hidden speakers in the spires, and distant figures, other Zovarans, I assumed, rushed about in panic. I glanced at my scanner. Readings off the charts, gravitational anomalies, seismic shifts, energy spikes that could tear the planet apart. This wasn't just a quake, it was apocalyptic. And here I was, the puny human, smack in the middle of it. But as the ground bucked beneath us, forcing Lyra to stumble into my arms, her body warm and surprisingly soft against mine, I felt a spark. Not just attraction, though that was there, electric as her hair. No, it was something deeper, a chance to prove her wrong. "Hold on, princess," I said, steadying her. "I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. Let's see what a puny earthling can do." As the world around us trembled, Lyra's eyes met mine, a mix of skepticism and reluctant hope. Little did she know, this crash landing was no accident of fate. It was the beginning of a bond that would shatter worlds and ignite passions beyond the stars. We raced toward the nearest spire, Lyra leading the way with agile leaps that made her outfit shimmer enticingly in the chaotic light. "The core chamber," she explained breathlessly. "If we can stabilize the Nexus crystal, we might buy time, but our engineers have failed repeatedly." "What makes you think?" "Because I'm not like your engineers," I interrupted, dodging a falling shard of crystal that exploded into sparks on impact. "I'm a fixer. Earthlings improvise. We don't have fancy thought chips, we make do with what we've got." Inside the spire, it was a marvel of alien tech. Holographic displays flickering with dire warnings, Zovaran technicians frantic at consoles that hummed with ethereal energy. Lyra barked orders in her native tongue, her voice commanding yet laced with desperation. One technician, a slender male with similar blue hair, glanced at me dismissively. "A human? Here, princess, this is no time for pets." She shot him a glare that could melt steel. He survived the shields. Perhaps the ancestors sent him. I ignored the jab and approached a central pedestal where a massive crystal pulsed erratically, veins of darkness creeping through its facets. My scanner beeped, quantum instability, feedback loops amplifying the decay. It reminded me of an old fusion reactor I'd patched on a mining asteroid, overloaded coils causing chain reactions. "All right," I muttered, pulling out my toolkit, primitive by their standards but effective. "Lyra, can you interface this with your systems?" I held up a multi-tool adapter, a gadget I'd cobbled together from Earth scraps. She hesitated, her fingers brushing mine as she took it, a touch that sent a jolt through me, not unlike static but warmer, more inviting. "It might work, but if you fail, I won't." Confidence surged, born from years of scraping by in the void. As I connected the adapter, sparks flew and the crystal's pulse steadied slightly. The technicians gasped. "Impossible," one murmured. Lyra's eyes widened, a flicker of admiration breaking through her facade. "How?" "Basic harmonics," I explained, tweaking a dial. "Your crystal's vibrating at the wrong frequency. I'm damping the resonance." But it was temporary. The ground shook again, harder. Cracks formed in the chamber walls. "We need to go deeper," Lyra said, grabbing my hand. Her palm was smooth, almost silken, and despite the peril, I felt a pull toward her, an inexplicable connection. Deeper into the spire we descended, via a lift that hummed with anti-grav tech. The air grew hotter, charged with ozone. Lyra's hair crackled more intensely, strands lifting as if alive. "The true core is below, guarded, dangerous." "Tell me about it," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "On Earth, we have volcanoes. This feels like one on steroids." She tilted her head, ears perking. "Steroids? Your human idioms are quaint." As the lift doors opened to a cavernous chamber, the heart of Zovara revealed itself, a colossal geode of crystals, the central one the size of a building, throbbing with inner light but riddled with fractures. Energy arcs leaped wildly, singeing the air. And there, at the base, a swarm of shadowy anomalies, dark tendrils writhing like living voids, feeding on the crystal's essence. "The void parasites," Lyra whispered, horror in her voice. "They've breached the seals. This is why the collapse accelerates." Parasites, they looked like nightmares given form, coiling and hissing. One lunged toward us and instinct took over. I shoved Lyra aside, grabbing a loose crystal shard as a makeshift weapon. It hummed in my grip, amplifying my swing. The tendril recoiled, screeching. "You're fighting them?" Lyra exclaimed, summoning an energy blade from her wrist gauntlet, sleek, glowing, and deadly. "Someone has to," I grunted, dodging another attack. Together we fought, her graceful strikes slicing through the shadows, my brute force shattering their forms. Sweat poured down my back, but adrenaline and the sight of her, fierce and beautiful, kept me going. In the fray, a tendril grazed her side, tearing her suit. She winced, a gash appearing on her shimmering skin. "Lyra," I yelled, rushing to her. "It's nothing," she said through gritted teeth, but her eyes betrayed pain. I tore a strip from my jacket, binding the wound, our faces close, breaths mingling. "You saved me," she murmured, surprise softening her features. "Just returning the favor for not vaporizing me earlier." A smile tugged at her lips, rare and genuine. But the parasites regrouped, the crystal cracking louder. We needed a plan fast, drawing on every scrap of knowledge from Earth engineering. I spotted a pattern in the parasites' movements. They fed on specific frequencies. "Lyra, your tech, can it broadcast a counterwave?" Her eyes lit up. "The Nexus amplifier, but it's unstable. Trust me." She nodded, and we synced my scanner with their systems. As the wave built, the chamber trembled. The parasites writhed, dissolving one by one. The crystal stabilized, its light brightening. Exhausted, we collapsed against a wall. Lyra leaned on me, her head on my shoulder. You did it, Earthling, for now." "Kai," I corrected softly. "Kai," she repeated, her voice a caress. In that moment, amid the fading chaos, something sparked between us, a forbidden attraction, human and alien, puny and princess. But the planet's woes were far from over. Deeper threats lurked, and our bond was just beginning to unfold. Thought for 8, as the echoes of the dissolving parasites faded into the cavern's depths, a fragile calm settled over the core chamber, but it was the kind of quiet that whispered of storms yet to come. The massive crystal hummed steadily now, its fractures mending like wounds under a healer's touch, yet I could feel the undercurrent of instability thrumming through the air, a subtle vibration that set my teeth on edge. Lyra's body remained pressed against mine, her warmth seeping through the thin barrier of her torn suit, and in that shared exhaustion, the spark between us ignited into something more tangible, more insistent. Her breath came in soft, ragged bursts against my neck, and I found myself acutely aware of every curve, every subtle shift as she adjusted her position, her electric blue-green hair brushing my skin like a teasing caress. She lifted her head slowly, those violet eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the chamber feel smaller, more intimate. "Kai," she murmured again, her voice husky from the battle, laced with a vulnerability I'd never expected from someone who had called me puny just hours ago. Her pointed ears twitched slightly, as if attuned to the rapid beat of my heart. Up close, her skin glowed faintly, a soft luminescence that invited touch, and the rip in her outfit revealed a glimpse of smooth, amethyst-hued flesh, unmarked save for the bandage I'd applied. The scent of her, that heady mix of ozone and exotic blooms, intensified, wrapping around me like an invisible embrace. I swallowed hard, my hand lingering on her waist where I'd steadied her during the fight. "We bought time, but it's not over. Those parasites, they weren't the root cause, were they?" Her lips parted, a faint smile playing there, but it was edged with something deeper, a hunger that mirrored the growing tension in my own body. She shifted closer, her thigh brushing against mine in a way that sent a jolt straight through me, deliberate yet unspoken. "No," she admitted softly, her fingers tracing the edge of my jacket, exploratory, as if testing the fabric, or perhaps the man beneath. "The void parasites are symptoms of a greater fracture. Deep in Zovara's mantle, an ancient artifact pulses out of sync, drawing dark energies from the void between stars. Our seers have foreseen its awakening, but none have dared approach it. Until now, perhaps." The words hung heavy, suspense coiling like a spring, but before I could respond, a distant rumble echoed through the cavern, faint at first, then building into a tremor that made the crystals chime ominously. Dust sifted from the ceiling, and holographic alerts flickered to life around us, projecting warnings in swirling Zovaran script. Lyra's expression tightened, her body tensing against mine, but she didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned in, her hand sliding up to rest on my chest, feeling the thud of my pulse. "We must descend further," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. "The path is perilous, forbidden to outsiders. But you've proven more than puny." There was a challenge in her eyes, mixed with an invitation that made my blood run hot. I nodded, reluctant to break the contact but driven by the urgency. As we rose, her fingers intertwined with mine, a simple gesture that felt charged, electric, much like the strands of her hair that occasionally sparked against my skin. We moved toward a hidden alcove, where Lyra activated a concealed panel with a wave of her hand. A spiral staircase materialized, descending into shadows that pulsed with faint, eerie light. The air grew thicker, warmer, carrying a metallic tang that hinted at unseen dangers. Descending step by step, the suspense built with every creak of the ancient structure. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, ghostly echoes of Zovaran ancestors, or perhaps the artifact itself calling out. Lyra's grip tightened, her palms slick with a fine sheen of sweat, and I could sense her fear, masked by that regal poise. But there was excitement too, a thrill that mirrored my own adrenaline-fueled rush. "Tell me more about this artifact," I said, my voice low to match the intimacy of the dim passage. "What makes it so dangerous?" She glanced back, her violet eyes gleaming in the low light, her body silhouetted against the glow below, the curves of her form accentuated by the shifting shadows. "It's the heart of Zovara, forged in the birth of our world. It binds our planet's energies, but corruption has seeped in, perhaps from external forces, invaders we've long repelled. Touching it requires purity of intent and strength." Her words trailed off as she paused on a landing, turning to face me fully. The space was narrow, forcing us close, her chest rising and falling mere inches from mine. A strand of her hair drifted forward, brushing my cheek, and the static charge made my skin tingle, awakening sensations I'd buried under layers of survival instinct. In that suspended moment, the erotic tension simmered, unspoken but palpable. Her gaze dropped to my lips, then back up, a subtle invitation. "You've shown strength, Kai, but this? It will test us both." Her hand moved from mine to my arm, fingers trailing lightly up to my shoulder, exploratory, as if mapping the contours of my human form. I felt the heat building, a magnetic pull that made rational thought blur. The rumble grew louder, a reminder of the peril, but it only heightened the intensity, like a storm brewing on the horizon. I reached out, my thumb grazing her jawline, feeling the soft luminescence of her skin. It was smoother than silk, warmer than expected, and she didn't recoil. Instead, she leaned into the touch, her eyes half closing. "I'm not backing down," I murmured, my voice rough with desire. "Not from the artifact, or from this." Her response was a soft exhale, her body swaying closer until our lips nearly brushed. The air crackled between us, charged like the prelude to a lightning strike. But then a sharper quake shook the staircase, jolting us apart just enough to break the spell, yet not the connection. Dust cascaded around us, and from below, a low growl emanated, as if the depths were alive and awakening. "We must hurry," she said, though her voice carried a reluctant huskiness, her cheeks flushed with a deeper purple hue. She turned, but not before her hand slipped back into mine, pulling me onward. The descent continued, the path narrowing into a tunnel veined with glowing crystals that cast erotic shadows, playing tricks on the eye, forms that twisted like lovers entwined, illusions born of the planet's chaotic energies. As we delved deeper, the heat intensified, wrapping around us like a lover's embrace, making our clothes cling uncomfortably. Lyra's suit, already torn, revealed more with each step, the fabric shifting to expose tantalizing glimpses of her toned midriff, the swell of her hips. She moved with a fluid grace, her hair swaying like a living entity, occasionally sending sparks that danced across her skin. I couldn't help but watch, mesmerized, the suspense of what lay ahead mingling with the growing ache of attraction. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber, lit by the pulsating glow of the heart itself, an enormous orb suspended in midair, radiating waves of energy that made the air hum. But guarding it were more threats. Spectral guardians, ethereal forms woven from shadow and light, patrolling in silent vigilance. They turned as we entered, their forms shifting into menacing shapes, eyes like voids locking onto us. Lyra pressed back against me, her body fitting perfectly against mine, the contact sending waves of heat through me. "The Sentinels," she breathed, her voice a mix of fear and resolve. "They sense intruders. We must prove our worth, together." The first Sentinel lunged, a blur of darkness, and I yanked Lyra aside, my free hand grabbing a protruding crystal to use as a shield. Energy crackled as it struck, the impact vibrating through my bones. Lyra countered with her energy blade, slicing through the apparition, but it reformed, relentless. We fought back to back, our movements syncing instinctively, her agility complementing my raw strength, each clash bringing us closer, brushes of skin and shared glances fueling the erotic undercurrent. In the midst of battle, as I shielded her from a sweeping attack, she spun into my arms, our faces inches apart once more. Sweat glistened on her skin, her breath mingling with mine, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just us, the heat, the danger, the undeniable pull. "Kai," she gasped, her hand clutching my shirt, pulling me nearer. The Sentinel regrouped, but in that instant, her lips grazed my ear. "Your touch, it grounds me." The words ignited something primal, suspense hanging thick as the Guardians circled. I pulled her behind a crystal outcrop for cover, our bodies pressed together in the confined space. Her curves molded against me, soft yet firm, and I could feel the rapid rise and fall of her chest. "We need a way past them," I whispered, my hand on her lower back, steadying, exploring. She nodded, her fingers dancing across a hidden panel on the wall, but her eyes never left mine, violet depths swirling with desire. The heart responds to harmony, to union. The implication hung between us, erotic and charged as the panel activated, revealing a secondary path. But the sentinels sensed it, converging with increased fury. We dashed forward, dodging blasts of energy that singed the air, the chase building to a fever pitch. Lyra stumbled on a loose shard, and I caught her, lifting her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around my waist for stability as I carried her through a narrow gap. The intimacy of the hold was electric, her thighs gripping tight, her arms around my neck, faces so close I could taste the anticipation. "Don't let go," she murmured, her voice a sultry command that sent my mind reeling. Emerging into a smaller antechamber closer to the heart, we paused, breathless. The orb's glow bathed us in warm light, amplifying every sensation. The sweat on our skin, the lingering touches. Lyra slid down slowly, her body sliding against mine in a deliberate tease, her hands lingering on my shoulders. "We're close," she said, her tone laced with double meaning. But the true test awaits. Outside, the sentinels hammered at the barrier we'd activated, the chamber shaking with each blow. Suspense coiled tighter, the erotic tension a live wire between us, promising more as the planet's fate, and our budding connection hung in the balance. The heart pulsed faster, as if sensing our presence, drawing us inexorably toward a climax that could save or doom us all. The barrier shuddered under the relentless assault of the sentinels, cracks spiderwebbing across its translucent surface, like veins of ice about to shatter. Each blow reverberated through the antechamber, a thunderous drumbeat that matched the frantic pulse of the heart of Zovara. Now so close its radiant energy bathed us in a kaleidoscope of colors. Crimson fury bleeding into sapphire calm, as if the orb itself were alive and raging against its own corruption. Lyra's body remained tantalizingly near, her curves a distracting anchor in the chaos, but the moment for stolen intimacies had passed. The air crackled with imminent doom, and her violet eyes, wide with a mix of determination and unspoken fear, locked onto the glowing core beyond the failing shield. "We can't wait for them to break through," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging like wildfire through my veins. My hand instinctively found hers again, fingers interlacing in a grip that felt both protective and possessive, the static from her hair sending tiny shocks that heightened every sense. The heart loomed larger now, suspended in a vortex of swirling energies, its surface marred by dark fissures that oozed shadowy essence, the very corruption threatening to unravel Zovara from the inside out. Lyra nodded, her pointed ears flattening against the onslaught of noise, and with a swift gesture, she deactivated a section of the barrier, just enough for us to slip through before resealing it behind us. The sentinels' howls echoed, muffled but furious, as we dashed into the heart's inner sanctum. The chamber was a cathedral of chaos, towering crystal formations jutted like jagged teeth, arcs of raw power leaping between them, singeing the air with the scent of burning ozone. The ground beneath our feet pulsed rhythmically, as if we stood on the skin of a colossal beast awakening from slumber. And at the center, the heart throbbed with erratic brilliance, its light flickering like a dying star, drawing us in with an almost hypnotic pull. But we weren't alone. As we approached, the shadows coalesced into a new form, a colossal guardian, not spectral like the sentinels, but a behemoth woven from the void itself. It rose from the fissures, towering twice our height, its body a swirling mass of Inkai tendrils armored in fractured crystal shards. Eyes like black holes fixed on us, and a voice boomed through the chamber, not spoken but felt in our bones. "Intruders! The heart claims all who dare." Thrilling dread gripped me, but curiosity burned brighter. What secrets did this entity guard? Lyra gasped, her free hand summoning her energy blade, which hummed to life with a fierce glow. "The Void Warden," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe and terror. Legends spoke of it as a myth, a final protector born from the planet's despair. No Zovaran has ever faced it and lived. The Warden lunged, its tendrils whipping like serpents, shattering a nearby crystal pillar into a shower of razor-sharp fragments. I yanked Lyra aside, rolling across the pulsating floor as debris rained down, one shard grazing my arm and drawing a line of hot blood. Pain flared, but it sharpened my focus. This was no ordinary fight, it was a dance with annihilation. We scrambled to our feet, back to back once more, her warmth a fleeting comfort amid the storm. "We need to disrupt its connection to the heart," I shouted over the din, my mind racing through engineering puzzles from 100 derelict ships. "Those fissures, they're feeding it power." She spun, her blade slicing through a lashing tendril, severing it in a burst of dark ichor that evaporated into smoke. Then we strike at the source. Her movements were a blur of grace and fury, her suit clinging sweat-slick to her body, accentuating every fluid twist and turn. But the warden reformed, its severed limb regenerating in seconds, and it countered with a sweeping arc that sent shockwaves rippling outward, knocking us off balance. I hit the ground hard, the impact jarring my bones, but surprise struck harder when the floor beneath me cracked open, revealing a hidden chasm glowing with inner fire. Curiosity surged. What lay below? A network of energy conduits pulsed. No, I lunged, grabbing her wrist, my muscles straining against the pull. Our eyes met in that heart-stopping moment, hers filled with a surprising vulnerability, a princess who had mocked me now relying on my puny strength. With a surge of human grit, I pulled her free, the tendril dissolving under her blade's final strike. We collapsed together on the ledge, breaths heaving, bodies entangled in the adrenaline-fueled closeness. You keep saving me, she panted, her hand cupping my face, thumb tracing the stubble on my jaw with a tenderness that surprised us both. But there was no time for sentiment. The warden descended fully now, its massive form squeezing into the chasm, shattering ledges in its wake. Thrilling pursuit turned to desperate evasion as we dashed along the conduits, the air thickening with energy that made our skin prickle. I spotted a junction point, a nexus of veins throbbing erratically. There, if I reroute the flow. Lyra covered me, her blade a whirlwind against encroaching shadows, her body a shield of fierce beauty. As I worked, jury-rigging my multi-tool into the alien tech, a surge of power coursed through me, visions flashing in my mind. Zovara's history unfolding like a cosmic tapestry, ancient wars, lost loves, a betrayal that seeded this corruption. Curious revelations hit like lightning. The artifact wasn't just a power source. It was sentient, crying out for balance. And somehow, my human presence, untethered to Zovaran energies, was the key. The overload built dramatic tension peaking as the conduits glowed white-hot. The warden howled, its form destabilizing, tendrils flailing wildly. In a thrilling climax, I slammed the final connection, and the chain reaction erupted. Energy exploded outward, ripping through the Guardian's core. It thrashed, shattering crystals in a spectacular display of light and shadow, before imploding in a vortex that sucked the corruption back into the fissures. We barely escaped, climbing frantically as the chasm collapsed behind us. Emerging into the main chamber, the heart stabilized, its light pure and steady for the first time, bathing the room in a serene glow. But surprise twisted the victory as the dust settled, holographic projections materialized around us. Images of Zovaran elders, long deceased, their voices echoing in unison. The balance is restored. By the union of worlds, the Earthling's ingenuity has awakened the heart's true potential. Lyra turned to me, her expression a whirlwind of emotions, gratitude, wonder, and something deeper, more intimate. You didn't just save my planet, Kai, you've changed it. But what does this mean for us? Before I could answer, the chamber trembled anew, not from collapse, but from a surge of awakening power. The heart pulsed brighter, revealing hidden chambers unfolding like petals, and in the distance, a new threat stirred. Echoes of invading forces drawn by the artifact's flare. Curiosity burned. What enemies had the elders hinted at? The thrill of survival gave way to the drama of greater battles ahead, our bond forged in fire now the only certainty in the unfolding storm. Yet as we stood there, hand in hand, the surprising truth dawned. I, the puny Earthling, had become the hero of legends, and Lyra, the mocking princess, looked at me not with disdain, but with the spark of undeniable passion. The planet breathed easier, but our story was far from over, teetering on the edge of revelations that could shatter galaxies. The holographic elders' projections faded like mist in the morning sun, leaving behind a profound silence that amplified the steady thrum of the heart, now a beacon of restored vitality pulsing in harmonious rhythm. Lyra's hand tightened in mine, her fingers warm and insistent, as if anchoring herself to this new reality we'd forged together, but the air still hummed with residual energy, crackling with the promise or threat of more to come. The chamber's walls, once fractured and ominous, now gleamed with renewed luster, reflecting our disheveled forms back at us like mocking mirrors. Me, the scruffy Earthling with dirt-streaked clothes and a fresh scar on my arm, and her, the ethereal princess whose torn suit left little to the imagination, clinging in ways that made my thoughts stray despite the gravity of the moment. As the tremors subsided into gentle vibrations, a new sound intruded, a distant whine of machinery, followed by the whoosh of opening portals along the chamber's perimeter. Zovaran reinforcements poured in, Elite guards in shimmering armor, their pointed ears alert and energy lances at the ready. Led by a stern-faced advisor whose blue hair was tied in an elaborate knot that screamed bureaucracy. "Princess Lyra?" he exclaimed, his voice booming with a mix of relief and reprimand, his violet eyes narrowing at our intertwined hands. "The core stabilizes, praise the ancestors, but who is this outsider, and why does he reek of human sweat and triumph?" Lyra straightened, her regal poise snapping back into place like a shield, but she didn't release which only heightened the drama unfolding before us. The guards formed a semicircle, their lances humming faintly, eyes darting between us with a blend of curiosity and suspicion. I felt the awkwardness settle in like an uninvited guest, my cheeks warming under their scrutiny. Here I was, the accidental hero, standing half-dressed in alien royalty's inner sanctum, holding hands with their princess as if we just emerged from a cosmic prom date gone wrong. "Advisor Thorn," Lyra said smoothly, though I caught the slight quiver in her voice, a hint of the vulnerability she'd shown me moments ago. "This is Kai, the Earthling who, well, saved us all. Without his ingenuity, the heart would have shattered." Thorn's eyebrows, or what passed for them in Zovaran physiology, elegant arches of iridescent skin, shot up in disbelief. "An Earthling? The same species our archives dismiss as bumbling primates with a penchant for explosive toys. Princess, surely you jest. The seers predicted a champion from the stars, not a mechanic." He eyed my toolkit, still dangling from my belt like a sad puppy, and I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly at the absurdity. Me bumbling? Okay, maybe a little, but I just outwitted a void monster. Cut me some slack. The drama escalated as Thorn gestured sharply, and a holographic scan enveloped me, beams of light probing like nosy fingers. "Intriguing," he muttered, his tone dripping with condescension. "Human physiology, elevated adrenaline, minor injuries, and heightened endorphins? Princess, have you been engaging in unauthorized cultural exchanges?" The implication hung heavy, and Lyra's cheeks flushed a deeper shade of purple, her pointed ears twitching in what I now recognized as embarrassment. The guards exchanged glances, a few suppressing smirks, turning the moment into a cosmic comedy of errors. I shifted uncomfortably, suddenly hyper-aware of how close we stood, her hip brushing mine in a way that sent sparks, literal ones from her hair, dancing across my skin. "Thorn, enough," Lyra snapped, her voice regaining its commanding edge, but the awkwardness lingered like a bad aftertaste. She finally dropped my hand, though not without a lingering squeeze that spoke volumes, and stepped forward to address the assembly. "Kai's actions have awakened the heart's latent powers." The elder's message was clear, a union of worlds. But the flare has attracted unwanted attention. Scans show incoming vessels from the outer void. Invaders, perhaps the same forces that seeded the corruption eons ago. Gasps rippled through the guards, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Thorn's face paled, his bureaucratic facade cracking. "The Shadow Consortium? They've probed our borders for cycles, seeking the heart's energy to fuel their empire. If they've detected the surge," trailed off, and the chamber filled with urgent murmurs, lances powering up with a collective hum that vibrated through the floor. In the midst of this, humor struck unexpectedly when my stomach let out a loud, traitorous growl, echoing through the sanctum like a beast awakening. All eyes turned to me, and I froze, the awkward situation amplifying tenfold. Sorry," I muttered, rubbing my neck sheepishly. "Earthlings need fuel after saving planets. Got any space snacks? Preferably not the kind that bites back." A few guards chuckled, breaking the tension, and even Lyra's lips twitched into a reluctant smile, her violet eyes sparkling with amusement. Thorn, however, looked appalled, as if I'd suggested dancing naked on the crystal throne. Primitive needs aside, Thorn huffed, waving a hand to summon a floating orb that dispensed glowing nutrient pods, translucent spheres that wobbled like jelly. "Eat, Earthling, before your biology embarrasses us further." I popped one in my mouth, expecting blandness, but it exploded with flavors of exotic fruits and spice, making me hum appreciatively. Lyra watched, her gaze lingering a beat too long, adding a layer of intimate awkwardness amid the preparations for war. But the light moment shattered as alarms blared anew, holographic displays projecting the approaching fleet. Sleek, obsidian ships slicing through space like predators, their hulls etched with ominous runes. "They're breaching the outer shields," a guard reported, voice laced with panic. Drama surged as the chamber shook from distant impacts, crystals chiming in protest. Lyra turned to me, her expression a storm of emotions, gratitude, fear, and that undeniable spark. "Kai, you've given us a fighting chance, but this invasion? It's personal now. The consortium seeks not just the heart, but to claim Zovara as their own." I nodded, adrenaline kicking in again, but awkwardness reared its head when Thorn thrust an energy lance into my hands. If you're to fight beside us, at least arm yourself properly, though I doubt your puny grip can handle it. The weapon hummed to life, nearly vibrating out of my grasp, and I fumbled it comically, earning another round of suppressed laughs from the guards. Hey, easy there, I quipped, steadying it with exaggerated care. I'm more of a wrench guy, but I'll improvise. Wouldn't want to disappoint the in-laws. Lyra shot me a look, half exasperation, half fondness, that only deepened the budding connection, but there was no time for flirtation. We rushed toward the surface via a high-speed lift, the ascent a blur of flashing lights and urgent strategy discussions. Thorn outlined the defense. Zovaran fighters would engage in orbit, while ground teams fortified the spires. And you, Earthling, he added with a dramatic flourish, will assist in the command center. Try not to break anything irreplaceable. Emerging into the open air, the dual suns cast long shadows over the landscape, now alive with activity, Zovarans scrambling to positions, energy barriers shimmering to life. But drama peaked when the first enemy dropship pierced the atmosphere, a hulking behemoth disgorging troops in dark armor, their weapons firing pulses that scorched the crystalline soil. "They're here," Lyra cried, pulling me behind cover as blasts rained down. In the chaos, an awkward, humorous twist unfolded. One invader, a burly figure with tentacles for arms, tripped over a bioluminescent root, face-planting spectacularly into the dirt. His comrades paused, and even from our vantage, I couldn't stifle a laugh. See, even aliens have off days. Maybe we can win this with banana peels. Lyra elbowed me, but her giggle escaped, lightening the dire mood for a split second. Yet the invasion intensified, ships clashing in the sky like titans, explosions blooming like deadly flowers. We fought our way to the command spire, Lyra's blade a whirlwind, my lance firing erratic but effective shots, zapping an enemy just as he aimed at her back. "Nice shot, puny one," she teased breathlessly, the humor a brief respite in the storm. As we reached the spire, a massive enemy cruiser targeted the Heart's location, its cannon charging with ominous glow. Drama crested. If it fired, all our efforts would unravel. "We need to hack their systems," I urged, my mechanic's mind whirring. But accessing alien tech mid-battle? Awkward didn't begin to cover at me, fumbling with holographic interfaces while guards eyed me skeptically, Thorn muttering about human folly. In a stroke of improvised genius, I synced my scanner to their network, exploiting a vulnerability reminiscent of old Earth firewalls. Codes flew across the display, and with Lyra's guidance, her hand on my shoulder, steadying and distracting, the hack succeeded. The cruiser's cannon misfired, blasting its own shields in a spectacular backfire that drew cheers from our side. But victory was bittersweet, more ships loomed, and in the heat of triumph, Lyra pulled me close for a quick, fervent kiss, her lips soft and electric, tasting of ozone and promise. Thorn cleared his throat loudly, turning the moment awkward yet again. "Princess, decorum, though, effective motivation, I suppose." Humor laced through the drama as we pressed on, our bond strengthening amid the absurdity of war and romance. The battle raged, revelations teasing at the edges, whispers from captured enemies hinting at a greater conspiracy, one that tied my accidental arrival to ancient prophecies. Zovara hung in the balance, our fates intertwined in a tapestry of chaos, laughter, and unyielding passion, with no end in sight to the escalating storm. As the echoes of the misfired cannon faded into the turbulent sky, a brief lull settled over the battlefield, the kind of fragile pause that follows a storm's first fury, allowing breaths to catch and hearts to race unchecked. Explosions still bloomed in the distance, painting the dual suns with streaks of fire. But in the command spire where we had taken refuge, the immediate threats receded just enough to let exhaustion and emotion flood in. Lyra and I leaned against a crystalline console, our bodies slick with sweat and grime from the fray, her shimmering suit torn in places that revealed glimpses of her luminous skin, while my own clothes hung in tatters, a testament to the chaos we'd endured. The guards bustled around us, coordinating defenses with urgent holograms flickering like fireflies, but in that crowded space, it felt as if an invisible bubble enclosed us, drawing our gazes together in a silent acknowledgement of the passion that had been simmering since our first clash. Thorn's pointed cough from across the room broke the spell momentarily, his eyes narrowing at our proximity, but he turned away to bark orders, leaving us in a pocket of stolen intimacy amid the war. Lyra's violet eyes met mine, softened by the adrenaline's afterglow, her electric blue-green hair still crackling faintly, strands dancing like they yearned to reach out and touch me. "Kai," she whispered, her voice a husky caress that sent warmth pooling through me. In all the cycles of Zovara, no one has stirred me like this. Your strength, it's not just in battles. Her hand brushed my arm, fingers tracing the line of a fresh bruise with a tenderness that belied her warrior spirit, igniting a spark that traveled straight to my core. I felt the pull, that magnetic draw we danced around since the core chamber, now amplified by the nearness of death and the thrill of survival. The spire's hum vibrated through us, syncing with the rapid beat of our hearts, and without words, we slipped away from the main hub, down a side corridor lit by soft, pulsing lights that cast intimate shadows on the walls. The drama of the invasion lingered in the air, distant rumbles reminding us of the stakes. But here, in this hidden alcove adorned with glowing vines that twisted like lovers' limbs, we surrendered to the moment. Lyra pressed closer, her body fitting against mine with a natural ease, her curves soft and inviting under the form-fitting fabric, the heat of her skin radiating through the thin barriers between us. Our lips met in a kiss that started gentle, exploratory, like tasting forbidden fruit from a distant world, but quickly deepened into something fervent, fueled by the pent-up tension of our shared ordeals. Her mouth was warm, tasting of the exotic essence that defined her, a blend of sweet nectar and electric spice that made my senses reel. My hands roamed her back, feeling the smooth contours of her form, the way her muscles tensed and relaxed under my touch, drawing soft sighs from her that echoed in the confined space. She responded in kind, her fingers threading through my hair, pulling me nearer as if to merge our worlds in this act of connection. The alcove seemed to respond to our energy, the vines glowing brighter, their light bathing us in a warm, ethereal haze that heightened every sensation. Lyra's pointed ears twitched with each brush of my lips against her neck, her breath hitching as I trailed kisses along the luminescent curve of her collarbone, savoring the way her skin shimmered under my attention. She arched into me, her hands exploring the planes of my chest, slipping under the remnants of my shirt to feel the warmth of my human skin, so different from her own yet igniting a fire that bridged the gap between species. The awkward humor from earlier battles faded, replaced by a profound intimacy, where every touch spoke of trust and desire built from chaos. We moved together in a rhythm as old as the stars, shedding the last barriers with careful reverence, her suit parting like petals under gentle pressure, revealing the beauty of her form, curves that glowed faintly, inviting and mesmerizing. My own clothes followed, discarded in the heat of the moment, and as our bodies intertwined, the world outside blurred into insignificance. Sensations overwhelmed, the silkiness of her skin against mine, the electric tingles from her hair that danced across my flesh like playful sparks, heightening the pleasure to dizzying heights. She whispered my name like a prayer, her voice laced with wonder, as we explored each other with a mix of curiosity and passion, discovering how perfectly our differences complemented one another. Time stretched in that embrace, each movement a symphony of shared breaths and soft murmurs, building to waves of ecstasy that washed over us like cosmic tides. Lyra's eyes locked onto mine at the peak, violet depths, swirling with emotions that transcended words, gratitude, affection, and a budding love that had blossomed from mockery to this profound union. We clung to each other in the afterglow, bodies entwined amid the glowing vines, the alcove's light dimming slightly as if respecting our privacy. Her head rested on my chest, listening to the steady thrum of my heart, so human and reassuring, while I stroked her hair, marveling at the static that still hummed between us, a reminder of the alien magic she embodied. But even in this sanctuary, the drama of Zovara's plight intruded softly, a subtle alarm chiming from the main spire, pulling us back to reality. Lyra lifted her head, a contented smile playing on her lips, her cheeks flushed with a deeper hue. "You've awakened more than the heart, Kai," she murmured, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin. "In you, I've found a harmony I never knew existed." We dressed reluctantly, the intimacy lingering in stolen glances and lingering touches, fortifying us for the battles ahead. Emerging back into the command hub, we found the invasion pressing harder, enemy forces regrouping for a ground assault that lit the horizon with laser fire. Thorn glanced our way, his expression a mix of suspicion and reluctant approval, but he said nothing, focusing instead on the holograms showing consortium troops advancing on the spires. The brief respite had recharged us, our bond now a secret strength, infusing our actions with renewed purpose. As we joined the fray once more, directing countermeasures from the console, I felt Lyra's hand brush mine under the table, a subtle promise of more moments like the one we'd shared, even as the storm raged on. The battle intensified, with Zovaran fighters weaving through the skies in elegant arcs, their energy beams clashing against the invaders' dark hulls. From our vantage, we orchestrated diversions, my Earthling hacks disrupting enemy communications, while Lyra's innate connection to the planet amplified defensive shields. Yet amidst the chaos, whispers from intercepted transmissions hinted at deeper layers to the conspiracy. The Shadow Consortium wasn't just conquerors. They sought to harness the heart's power for a weapon that could dominate galaxies, and my arrival had been no accident. Prophecies in their own archives spoke of a bridge from the primitive worlds that could tip the scales. Drama built as an elite consortium squad breached the outer perimeter, their leader, a towering figure in obsidian armor, tentacles writhing from his helm, broadcasting a challenge. Surrender the heart, Zovarans, and your puny ally. The stars belong to us. Lyra's jaw set in determination, her hand squeezing mine openly now, the intimacy we'd shared fueling her resolve. They underestimate us, she said, her voice steady. Together, we'll show them the power of unity. We launched a counteroffensive, me rigging explosive traps from salvaged tech while she led a strike team, her form a blur of grace and power. The clash was fierce, energy blasts illuminating the crystalline landscape, but our connection, forged in passion and peril, made us unstoppable. As the squad fell back, retreating under our onslaught, a sense of triumph swelled, tempered by the knowledge that this was but one wave in a larger tide. In the quiet aftermath of that skirmish, as repairs began and scouts reported more fleets on the horizon, Lyra and I stole another glance, the memory of our alcove encounter a warm anchor in the cold void of war. The unyielding passion between us had evolved, becoming a beacon that lit the path forward, promising that no matter the escalating threats, our intertwined fates would endure. As the counteroffensive pushed the consortium forces into a hasty retreat, their ships scattering like shadows fleeing the dawn, a tentative calm blanketed the command spire, broken only by the soft beeps of scanners, confirming the invaders' withdrawal to the outer orbits. Lyra and I stood side by side at the holographic display, our fingers brushing in that subtle way that had become our unspoken language, a quiet affirmation of the passion we'd shared and the battles we'd won together. The guards cheered softly, slapping crystalline gauntlets in victory, while Thorn allowed a rare nod of approval, his stern features softening as he reviewed the damage reports. Minimal losses, shields holding, the heart's energy surging stronger than ever, thanks to the harmony we'd restored. But beneath the relief, a nagging undercurrent tugged at me, those intercepted whispers about prophecies and bridges from primitive worlds echoing in my mind like unsolved riddles from an old spacer's tale. Lyra leaned in, her breath warm against my ear, carrying that familiar ozone scent mixed with the faint glow of her skin after our intimate escape. We've turned the tide, Kai. Your hacks, my people's resilience, it's a symphony of worlds colliding. Her violet eyes sparkled with pride, and she placed a hand on my shoulder, the touch lingering just long enough to stir memories of the alcove, where our bodies had moved in perfect sync, exploring the depths of connection that transcended species. I smiled, pulling her closer for a moment, oblivious to the glances from the room, my heart swelling with the certainty that whatever came next, we'd face it united. Yet as the holograms flickered with updates, enemy fleets regrouping at a safe distance, probing for weaknesses, an anomalous signal pierced the feed, an encrypted burst that my scanner latched onto instinctively. "What's this?" I muttered, tweaking the console to decode it, my mechanic's curiosity overriding the post-battle fatigue. The signal unspooled like a thread, revealing coordinates not from the consortium's armada, but from deeper space, a vector that traced back to Earth. No, that couldn't be right. My fingers flew across the interface, cross-referencing with Zovaran databases, and Lyra watched, her pointed ears perking with interest. "Kai, you've gone pale, what do you see?" The decode completed, and the truth hit like a warp core breach, shattering the fragile peace we'd clung to. The signal wasn't an invasion order. It was a confession, a data log from the consortium's leader himself, embedded in their retreat broadcast as a taunt or perhaps a desperate reveal. "By the stars," I breathed, the words catching in my throat as the hologram projected the revelation for all to see. The Shadow Consortium hadn't seeded Zovara's corruption alone. They had allies, human allies, from a rogue Earth corporation, the very one that had built my ship, the Rusty Nomad. The logs detailed a pact forged decades ago, trading forbidden tech for access to alien artifacts, with my accidental warp malfunction engineered as a delivery mechanism. I wasn't a random savior. I was a pawn, my arrival orchestrated to trigger the heart's awakening, making it ripe for harvest by both sides. Gasps rippled through the spire, guards freezing in place, their energy lances humming uncertainly. Thorn's face twisted in outrage, his voice booming like thunder. Treachery from within, the Earthling, he's the bridge they spoke of. All eyes turned to me, suspicion igniting like wildfires, and Lyra's hand slipped from my shoulder, her expression crumbling from affection to betrayal, her violet eyes widening in shock. Kai, tell me this isn't true, you couldn't have known. But the twist deepened, the logs unfolding further in a cascade of damning evidence. My employer, TerraForge Industries, had embedded a neural implant in me during a routine medical check standard for deep space pilots, they'd said. It wasn't for health monitoring, it was a subconscious beacon, guiding my ship through the anomaly straight to Zovara, and now, as the heart stabilized, it was activating a hidden protocol. I felt it then, a subtle buzz at the base of my skull, like static building before a storm. No, I whispered, clutching my head as visions flashed, schematics of the heart, extraction methods, coordinates for a human fleet waiting in the shadows. The implant was feeding data back, turning me into an unwitting spy, and worse, a saboteur programmed to destabilize the core if captured. The room erupted in chaos, guards raising their lances toward me, Thorn barking orders to restrain the intruder. Lyra stepped back, her hair crackling wildly with emotional turmoil, strands lashing out like whips of lightning. How could I have been so blind? You mocked my world as puny, but it was all a ruse. Her voice broke, the pain raw and piercing, echoing the intimacy we'd shared now twisted into a weapon against us. I staggered, fighting the implant's influence, my mind a battlefield of loyalty and compulsion. Lyra, listen, it's not me. They used me, I didn't know. But the words rang hollow even to my ears, the surprise of the revelation leaving me reeling, my human ingenuity. The very thing she'd admired, now exposed as a tool of deception. In that heart-wrenching moment, the powerful twist unveiled itself fully. The Elder's prophecy wasn't about salvation through union. It was a warning of infiltration, the bridge from primitive worlds, a harbinger of doom. And as the implant surged, forcing my hand toward the console to input a shutdown code, I resisted with every fiber, sweat beading on my brow. Lyra hesitated, her energy blade materializing, pointed at my chest, tears glistening in her eyes, tears that shimmered like stars falling. Prove it, Kai, fight it for us. The struggle intensified, my body trembling as I wrested control, slamming my fist into the console instead, short-circuiting the implant in a burst of sparks that seared my skin. Pain exploded, but clarity returned, the beacon silenced for now. The guards lowered their weapons slightly, uncertainty flickering, but the damage was done. Trust fractured like the planet's core had been. Thorn seized the moment, activating restraints that bound my wrists with energy cuffs, his voice cold. Until we verify this, the Earthling is confined. Princess, your judgment may have been clouded. Lyra turned away, her shoulders slumping, the bond we'd built crumbling under the weight of this surprise betrayal. Yet deep down, a flicker of doubt lingered in her gaze, a hope that the man who'd saved her world, who'd touched her soul, wasn't the monster the logs painted. As I was led away to a holding cell, the spire's alarms blared anew. The human fleet emerging from warp, drawn by the silenced beacon, their ships bearing TerraForge markings, converging with the consortium remnants for a joint assault. The twist had turned ally into enemy, hero into villain, and our love story into a tragedy of cosmic proportions. But in the cell's dim glow, as I nursed my burned hand, another layer of the surprise unfolded in my mind, fragments from the implant's data dump revealing a counter-protocol, a failsafe hidden by a rogue engineer within TerraForge who opposed the pact. It was a virus, dormant until now, capable of turning the human ships against the consortium. If I could access it, perhaps redemption awaited. The question burned. Could I convince Lyra, win back her trust, and wield this twist to our advantage? The invasion loomed larger, the dual fleets blotting out the suns, and Zovara's fate hung by a thread, surprise giving way to desperate resolve. The cell door hummed open unexpectedly, Lyra slipping in alone, her face a mask of conflict. Kai, I don't know what to believe, but the heart, it pulses differently now, as if calling to you still. She deactivated my cuffs with a touch, her fingers trembling, the intimacy of our past clashing with the present doubt. Show me the truth. Help me understand. I rose, pulling her into an embrace she didn't resist, our foreheads touching as I whispered the implant's secrets, the virus's potential. Her eyes searched mine, surprise mirroring my own at this glimmer of hope amid the betrayal. Together, We hacked into the Spire's systems from the cell's hidden terminal, uploading the virus to the approaching human fleet. As it took hold, chaos erupted in the skies, Terra-forged ships turning on consortium allies, lasers crossing in a frenzy of unexpected civil war. The twist had surprised even the invaders, their alliance fracturing from within, buying Zovara precious time. Lyra's lips met mine in a fierce, forgiving kiss, passion reigniting like a supernova. "You are no pawn, Kai. You're the wild card that changes everything." But as we watched the battle unfold, a final surprise whispered from the heart's energies, the prophecies' full text, revealing that the bridge wasn't destruction, but evolution, a merging of human and Zovaran essences to birth a new era. Our union, intimate and profound, was the key, not just romantically, but literally the implant's residue blending with her alien biology in ways that amplified the planet's defenses. The fleets clashed, but Zovara's shields flared brighter, empowered by our bond, turning the tide once more. Yet questions lingered. Who was the rogue engineer, and what greater forces pulled these strings? The surprise had transformed despair into possibility, our story twisting toward an uncertain, exhilarating horizon. As the skies above Zovara erupted in a dazzling frenzy of betrayal and redemption, the human fleet's ships, once poised as conquerors, now turned their cannons on the consortium's dark vessels, lasers carving through hulls like knives through silk, explosions blooming in silent symphonies against the starry backdrop. Lyra and I stood transfixed in the holding cell turned makeshift command post, our embrace lingering as the holographic feeds captured the chaos. Terra-forged cruisers ramming into obsidian behemoths, debris scattering like cosmic confetti, the virus I'd unleashed spreading like wildfire through their networks. Her body pressed against mine, the warmth of our renewed connection, a stark contrast to the cold void outside. But the drama was far from over. The merging of essences the heart whispered of pulse through us both, a subtle energy that made my skin tingle where we touched, hinting at changes neither of us could yet comprehend. We burst from the cell, hand in hand, racing back to the main spire where Thorn and the guards awaited, their faces a mosaic of shock and reluctant awe as the battle feeds updated in real time. "The fleets are devouring each other," Thorn exclaimed, his elaborate hair not unraveling slightly in the excitement, giving him a comically disheveled look that undercut his usual pomposity. He whirled on us, eyes bulging as he took in our disarray, Lyra's suit still bearing the marks of our earlier intimacy, my cuffs dangling loosely from one wrist like forgotten jewelry. "Princess, you released the prisoner? And what's this energy flux around you both? It's as if the heart itself is." Blushing. The awkwardness hit like a warp jump gone wrong, the guards exchanging sidelong glances, a few stifling snickers at Thorn's choice of words. Lyra flushed, her cheeks deepening to a vibrant indigo, her pointed ears twitching in embarrassment as she straightened her posture. "Advisor, focus. The prophecy unfolds, the bridge is not destruction, but evolution. Kai's implant residue is blending with Zovaran energies, amplifying our defenses." She gestured to the holograms, where the planet's shields flared brighter, repelling stray blasts with effortless grace, but her hand lingered on my arm a beat too long, drawing more raised eyebrows and muffled chuckles from the room. I shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how we must look. The alien princess and her puny human consort, fresh from a cell block rendezvous that had saved the day, talk about awkward timing for a cosmic glow-up. Thorn cleared his throat dramatically, waving a holographic tablet like a conductor's baton. "Blending, amplifying, this sounds suspiciously like interspecies fraternization protocols being violated. The archives are clear, no merging without council approval." His voice rose to a theatrical pitch, heightening the drama as if we were actors in a Zovaran soap opera, and I couldn't help but snort a laugh, the humor bubbling up amid the tension. "Hey, Thorn, if you need forms filled out for saving your planet, I'll sign in triplicate, but maybe pencil an accidental hero under occupation?" The guards erupted in laughter, one slapping his knee so hard his energy lance clattered to the floor, rolling comically toward Thorn's feet. Lyra shot me a playful glare, but her lips quirked in amusement, easing the awkward strain. "Kai's right, bureaucracy can wait. The remaining ships are regrouping, the virus bought time, but the consortium's leader won't yield easily." As if on cue, a massive dreadnought emerged from the fray, its hull scarred but intact, broadcasting a holographic ultimatum that filled the spire. The tentacled commander, his voice a guttural snarl translated into echoing Zovaran. "Fools, your puny alliance crumbles. Surrender the heart and the Earthling traitor, or we'll glass your world from orbit." The image zoomed in on his writhing appendages, dramatic shadows playing across his armored form, heightening the threat to operatic levels. Panic rippled through the room, but awkward humor struck again when my stomach, ever the unreliable narrator, growled louder than the broadcast, echoing off the crystals like a defiant roar. Thorn stared, incredulous. Again with the primitive urges, at a time like this? I shrugged, grinning sheepishly. What can I say? Heroics work up an appetite. Got more of those jelly pods. Extra spice for the end of the world? Lyra chuckled, tossing me one from a nearby dispenser, the gesture lightening the mood as guards nodded in reluctant agreement. Human quirks were growing on them, it seemed. But the drama surged forward, unyielding as sensors blared, the dreadnought charging its primary weapon, a beam capable of cracking planetary cores. We need to counterstrike, Lyra declared, her voice steady despite the fear flickering in her eyes. She pulled me to a console, our merged energies syncing effortlessly now, the implant's residue allowing me to interface with Zovaran tech like an extension of my thoughts. Together, we orchestrated a defense, redirecting shield harmonics to form a reflective barrier, my human hacks layering in deceptive decoys that made the spire appear multiplied across the landscape. Thorn hovered, offering unsolicited advice that only added to the awkwardness. Princess, are you certain trusting him won't overload the systems, or, ancestors forbid, cause a feedback loop in your personal energies? His implication hung heavy, drawing titters from the guards, and Lyra's ears flattened in irritation. Thorn, if you must meddle, at least fetch the auxiliary crystals. He scurried off, muttering about decorum, his knot fully unraveling now into a frizzy halo that made him look like a startled porcupine, pure comedic gold in the midst of peril. As the dreadnought fired, its beam lancing toward us like a spear of light, our barrier held, reflecting the energy back in a spectacular rebound that grazed the enemy's shields, sparking a chain of explosions along their flank. Cheers erupted, but the victory was short-lived. Boarding pods launched from the dreadnought, hurtling toward the surface like meteors, each packed with elite troops aiming for the heart. We mobilized, Lyra leading a squad, including me, now armed with a customized energy lance that hummed in tune with our blended essences, toward the landing zones. The descent was a blur of anti-grav lifts and rushing winds, the awkwardness peaking when Thorn insisted on joining, his bureaucratic robes flapping comically in the breeze. I must document this for the archives. He puffed, nearly tripping over his own feet as we hit the ground. Document later, dodge now? I yelled, shoving him behind cover as laser fire scorched the crystalline soil. The invaders poured out, tentacles flailing alongside armored brutes, their weapons blazing. Drama intensified in the close-quarters clash. Lyra and I fought in sync, her blade dancing while my lance fired precise shots, our merged energies allowing telepathic glimpses, flashes of intent that made our movements fluid, almost intimate. But humor intruded when an enemy tentacle warrior lunged at me, only to slip on a patch of bioluminescent slime, tentacles tangling in a knot that left him wriggling helplessly. Looks like someone's all tied up, I quipped, zapping him into submission, earning a laugh from Lyra even as she parried a blow. Your puns are as deadly as your aim, Kai. Thorn, attempting heroism, activated a defensive drone that malfunctioned spectacularly, buzzing around his head like an angry bee before clonking an invader unconscious. See, even machines respect protocol. He boasted, but his victory dance ended abruptly when another drone clipped his robe, leaving him half exposed in a flurry of fabric, awkward hilarity that had guards guffawing mid-battle. Advisor, compose yourself, Lyra called, her voice straining between command and suppressed giggles. As we pushed the borders back, drama crested with the dreadnought's commander beaming down personally, a towering menace with tentacles whipping like storms. You dare defy the consortium? I'll claim the heart myself and your traitorous pet. He charged, energy whips cracking, forcing us into a desperate standoff. Lyra and I circled him, our essences pulsing in unison, amplifying our strikes, my lance sinking with her blade in a dazzling display. But the awkward twist came when Thorn, in a bid for glory, hurled a nutrient pod at the commander, the jelly exploding on impact and gumming up his tentacles in sticky goo. Take that, you squishy tyrant. Thorn yelled, the sight so absurd it bought us a moment's distraction. Seizing it, we struck, Lyra severing a whip while I overloaded his armor with a hacked pulse, the commander collapsing in a heap of defeated slime. Not so mighty now, eh? I teased, but the humor faded as reinforcements loomed, more pods descending, the fleets above still locked in civil war but fragments breaking through. We regrouped at the spire, breaths ragged, the merging energies evolving further, faint glows emanating from our skin, a visible sign of the prophecy's fulfillment that drew stares and whispers. "You're glowing," Thorn observed, awkward fascination in his tone. "Is this permanent? The council will have questions." Lyra squeezed my hand, her eyes fierce with determination. "Let them question. This power will save us." But as alarms wailed anew, signaling a final assault wave, the drama hung thick, our bond the linchpin, awkward alliances forging in the fire, humor a lifeline against despair. The battle for Zovara raged on, our fates intertwined in a whirlwind of light, laughter, and unyielding resolve, teetering toward a climax that could redefine the stars themselves. The spire trembled under the weight of the approaching storm, the sky above Zovara a churning canvas of fire and shadow, as the remnants of the Consortium and Terra Forge fleets clashed in their final, desperate throes. Alarms wailed like mourners at a cosmic funeral, but within the command hub, a defiant energy pulsed, amplified by the glow emanating from Lyra and me. Our merged essences casting a soft, radiant halo that bathed the crystalline walls in hues of hope. The guards, once skeptical, now rallied around us, their energy lances humming in sync with the heart's steady beat. While Thorn, his robe still comically tattered from his drone mishap, adjusted his disheveled hair not with a newfound resolve, muttering about archival significance, but wearing a grudging smile that acknowledged our improbable triumph. Lyra's hand remained in mine, her touch a steady anchor as we faced the final wave, the weight of our intertwined fates settling like stardust, promising an ending that would echo through Zovara's history. The holographic displays flared with urgent updates. The invading fleets, weakened by their internal betrayal, were converging for one last assault, their combined forces targeting the heart directly in a bid to seize its power or destroy it utterly. Lyra's violet eyes met mine, fierce yet softened by the intimacy we'd forged, her electric blue-green hair crackling with a quiet intensity that mirrored the planet's awakening strength. "This is it, Kai," she murmured, her voice a blend of determination and warmth, her fingers squeezing mine as if to seal a vow. "We've turned their schemes against them, but the heart's true power, our power, must shine now, or all is lost." I nodded, feeling the hum of our blended energies coursing through me, a sensation both alien and familiar, like a melody I'd always known but only now could sing. The implant's residue, once a tool of betrayal, had fused with Lyra's Zovaran essence, creating a conduit that linked us to the heart itself, its pulses resonating with our shared will. "Then let's finish this," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos outside. "For Zovara, for us." Her smile was radiant, a promise of futures yet unwritten, and as we turned to the console, our movements were a seamless dance, our thoughts aligning in a way that felt almost telepathic, a testament to the prophecy's truth. Our union was the bridge to a new era. Thorn, ever the bureaucrat, rallied the guards with a dramatic flourish, his earlier awkwardness replaced by a surprising charisma. "Defend the spires. Protect the heart and its champions," he bellowed, his voice carrying over the din as he handed me a recalibrated energy lance, its hum now tuned to our merged frequencies. "Don't break this one, Earthling," he teased, a spark of humor breaking through his usual sternness, and I grinned, hefting the weapon with newfound confidence. "No promises, but I'll try not to make it a collector's item." The final assault hit like a supernova, enemy pods crashing through weakened shields, disgorging troops in a relentless tide. We met them on the crystalline plains, Lyra leading with her energy blade flashing like a comet, while I flanked her, my lance firing precise bursts that scattered invaders like leaves in a storm. The heart's energy surged through us, amplifying our strikes, our glows intertwining in a mesmerizing display that drew gasps from friend and foe alike. One consortium soldier, tentacles flailing, paused mid-attack, staring at our radiance with what looked like awe before Lyra dispatched him with a graceful spin, her hair sparking like a halo of lightning. "Keep up, Kai," she called, her tone playful yet fierce, reigniting the spark of our earlier intimacy even in battle. The tide turned as Zovaran fighters joined us, their sleek craft weaving through the sky, bolstered by the heart's amplified defenses. My hacks, now instinctive through our merged connection, disrupted enemy targeting systems, causing their own weapons to misfire in spectacular bursts of chaos. But the drama peaked when the Dreadnought's commander, battered but unyielding, descended in a personal match, its tentacles replaced by mechanical claws that tore through the ground, aiming for the spire's core. "You cannot stop destiny," he roared, his voice a distorted growl over the comms. "The heart is ours." Lyra and I exchanged a glance, our bond a silent agreement, and we charged together, our energies flaring brighter as we closed the distance. The mech swiped, its claw grazing my shoulder, but the pain only fueled my resolve. Lyra leaped, her blade slicing through a hydraulic limb, while I aimed my lance at its power core, our combined attack a symphony of precision and power. The mech staggered, sparks flying, and with a final surge of the heart's energy, we unleashed a pulse that overloaded its systems, the commander collapsing in a heap of twisted metal, his defeat a symbol of our triumph. As the last enemy ships fled or fell, the battlefield grew quiet, the dual suns casting a serene light over the scarred landscape. The guards cheered, their voices rising like a chorus, and Thorn, limping slightly from a stray blast, clapped me on the back, a gesture so unexpected it nearly toppled me. "Well done, Earthling, you may yet earn a footnote in our archives." His grin was genuine, a rare crack in his bureaucratic armor, and I laughed, the sound mingling with Lyra's as she pulled me into a fierce embrace, her lips finding mine in a kiss that spoke of victory and love, unashamed before the gathered Zovarans. We returned to the spire, the heart now a beacon of pure light, its fractures healed, its energy flowing in harmony with the planet's core. Holographic projections of the elders reappeared, their voices warm with approval. The bridge is forged, the union complete. Zovara rises anew, strengthened by the bond of worlds. They revealed the final truth. The rogue engineer within Terraforge, a visionary named Orin, had sabotaged the human consortium pact, embedding the virus and implant protocols to ensure a champion, me, would reach Zovara not to destroy but to save. My arrival, though manipulated, had been destiny's design, our love the catalyst for evolution. In the days that followed, Zovara began to heal, its spires gleaming brighter, its flora blooming with renewed vigor. Lyra and I stood on a balcony overlooking the crystalline plains, her hand in mine, her hair catching the sunlight in a cascade of electric hues. "You've changed everything, Kai," she said softly, her violet eyes reflecting a future we could build together. "Will you stay? Rule beside me, not as a puny earthling, but as my equal, my heart." I grinned, pulling her close, the glow of our merged essences a quiet reminder of our journey. Rule a planet, that's a step up from fixing engines. But for you, Lyra, I'd take on the galaxy. Our laughter mingled, light and free, as the guards below began reconstructing, Thorn overseeing with a clipboard and a newfound respect for primitive ingenuity. The story of Zovara's salvation spread, a tale of an earthling and a princess who defied betrayal, united worlds, and forged a love that reshaped the stars. The heart pulsed steadily, a testament to our bond, and as we faced the horizon, new challenges no doubt waiting in the vast cosmos, we knew that together we were unstoppable, our ending not just good, but legendary, a beacon of hope for all who dared to dream beyond their world.